So Jamie, thanks for taking the time to speak with Movers and Shakers Unlimited. So I wanted to come on because I know that you have the recent book Nomad. So are you able to just talk about like the genesis of that? I know it has some amalgamations of some recognizable genre films.
Yeah. So Nomad, my latest book, sci-fi, now available on Amazon. It's a lot like, it's kind of dark sci-fi. It's a little bit like, I'd say it's like Alien, but it doesn't necessarily have the monster presence. I don't want to disappoint people with that, but it has the same tone, kind of trapped in a dark spaceship, a lot of mystery. Things like Event Horizon kind of come into play, and even in some ways, John Carpenter's The Thing. I think it's a little bit like that. I'll just jump into the really headline pitch because it's really page one, but it's kind of about a girl who wakes up in she's drowning in this cryo freeze chamber. So it kind of begins like Alien. So the whole spaceship or whatever is on fire. Somebody busts her out and they make this dramatic escape, and they find themselves in this weird control room. But the weird thing about the control room is it's all built out of like Commodore 64s and Radio Shack technology. So that's kind of the mystery. And she has no idea how she got there. She's like an 80s girl. So it has a lot of that kind of 80s Stranger Things nostalgia too. And from there, it's a mystery. So anything else I'd say is kind of a spoiler. So you're literally put in her shoes from the first page, from literally the cover. I mean, this is where it starts, this cover. And from that point on, you follow her mystery, why she's there, who she is, who built this thing, how it works, all that stuff. So that's kind of my pitch.
All right. Cool stuff. So I guess I know you given kind of like a breakdown of what to expect in the story itself, but
Sure.
what drove you to put Nomad together?
Yeah, so this one started as a screenplay. So back in the days when my first produced movie, Altered, I actually wrote this around the time that was being made. And Haxon actually tried to get it made, Eduardo Sanchez, Greg Hale, Robin Cowie at the time. They tried to get it made for a brief period of time. This was going to be the next movie. And it didn't work out, as movies often do, as most of my movies often do. And it kind of went on the shelf. And then it became we tried to pitch it as a graphic novel around, I know you're at Comic-Con right now. So we pitched it, I remember we pitched it to Dynamite. We had a pitch I remember we went to the DC offices in New York. We also pitched Jim Lee's company, I think, at the time. So we did a bunch of really cool pitches. And at the time, we were pitching like 3 comic books, and one of them was Blackbeard, the Pirate King, which ended up being a graphic novel for Dynamite, another thing of mine you could download from Amazon right now. So we never did this as a comic. We were like, we'll do that first, then we'll move on to this maybe after. It'll be second. But what we discovered in the comic book industry is it takes so long to get this, for us, we were like, oh, it'll take a year and we'll be out with the next one next year. I think it took about 2 years before the cover and the writing and all the art and everything else came together. It was probably a 2-year period. So it was almost as long as a film. So anyway, then Nomad, we were kind of out of the comic books. We were moving on to other stuff. We were probably doing Lovely Molly and Exists and things like that at the time. We tried to pitch it as a TV series. It came back around, and we had some interest in it as a kind of limited series. We expanded the story a bit. Again, it never happened. So finally, when I started to write novels a few years ago, and I was looking at all my screenplays that I'd written that would make a good novel, the reason I chose this one was because of that mystery aspect. I thought I could tell a story that was specifically from the girl's POV. So you were exactly in her point of view and asking all the same questions she was. And that's kind of why I chose this one. So that's a long answer to a short question.
Gotcha. So, now since you now have it, you've kind of, I guess, I know it's been swimming around in your head, all this time, and you've kindly been able to, put it somewhere. As someone who's a content creator, being able to, finally put it down somewhere, it can be very cathartic. So with that being said, is that a plan of yours, or is that, an intention of yours to still have it go that route, or are you kind of content to kind of keep it in this media platform?
Yeah, no, I'd love it. I'd love it to go any route. But quite honestly, one of the satisfactions of writing the book is that people can finally read it. So to me, there is kind of a completion. I feel satisfied that this one I've gotten somewhere, that I can get it in somebody's hands and they can know the story. Would I love to have it as a graphic novel? Would I love to have it as a TV series? Yes. But if I have other things that are always competing with it and stuff. So it really wasn't even the intention, like, let's write it as a novel and then hopefully that'll increase its chances in these other mediums. It was more just a way to be satisfied that this story could finally be shared with others. But yeah, especially if my buddies at Haxon can figure out a way to make it a movie or something, I'd love it. I'd love it.
All right. Fingers crossed. Well, continuing on with the novel itself, are you planning on having it, expand for? Is this a one-off for you, or are you going to continue that story further, or maybe is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
getting the spoilers? Maybe.
No, not really. So here's the cool thing. One of the reasons, after we turned it into a comic book and a television show, especially the television show, I had to start thinking of it in terms of how could this be a season 2? How could it be a season 3? So going into the book, I still had those kind of thoughts in the back of my mind. So it definitely could be a series. It ends in a point where there's another mystery that you could either kind of look at it like, oh, that's interesting, or you could actually write another book. I think for me, whether or not I'd write a book probably depends on time and interest. If enough people check it out and really dig it, I would jump right back into writing another one. If it doesn't, if it's just what it is and nobody really reads it, then that's cool too. And I'll be happy to just leave it out there with its long tail that people will discover it 50 years from now and say, what's this weird thing? So either way, but it could be a series. It could be a series, and I'd be happy to jump back into it.
Cool. That's actually a great segue. You talking about time, because as I know about you with screenwriting, is that you get brought on to do drafts or cleanup on a lot of various projects, whether it's TV, film, what have you, and obviously that's very time consuming. So with that being said, jumping off of that, I know, and this is a shout out to DeLuca and Arnold's Ken Arnold, Dan DeLuca,
the Night Watchmen guys.
the Watchmen guys, right? I understand that there is a project that they're also in the process of working on. Are you? And I think we spoke about it briefly. Are you involved with that in any capacity?
I am. It's still not. We're not quite. We're like inches toward the green light. Like, I mean, maybe days within green light or something from what I hear. So it's not 100% a done deal yet, but they've been talking about it themselves. And if that does go forward, I will be involved. Not quite sure what involvement. So it's right now. I mean, what I can tell you, because I think they've shared it a little bit, is that it's an anthology of horror, and in particular, it's comedy horror. So comedy horror is right in my wheelhouse. That's my favorite genre of all, but you hardly get asked to do it. So if nothing else, I'll be involved in like a producer capacity or something like that. So I'll work on various ones. They're still deciding directors, specific stories, budgets, and it's like this close. So maybe in 2 months from now, that'll actually be in production. So, and if you want to check out some horror comedy by those guys, check out the Night Watchmen, which is now on Amazon and other places.
Of course, of course. Now, outside of that, that project, the book and this project, what else? And I know it's probably a laundry list, but what else are things that are kind of swimming right now?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the things that are to that next level, because they're the only ones. Everything else always falls apart, right? So there was a thing I was involved in that I think is coming out in the fall, that Eduardo, I did some producer stuff with it as well. So Eduardo Sanchez, Greg Hale, they directed an anthology series, kind of like this, the one we just talked about. It's a sci-fi anthology, so it's probably more in line with Nomad. It's kind of a horror sci-fi anthology. It's called Portals, and there are 3 or 4 other. Now I can't remember. It's been so long since we shot it. But I'm trying to think. I think there might be 3 other directors. And I think that comes out in the fall. So look forward to that. That's the only thing that's kind of in the finish line. I've been doing a lot of stuff in development, waiting to get kind of like the anthology I just talked about, the horror comedy. There are a lot of things I've been working on to kind of get to the green light phase, but aren't quite there yet. So there's nothing I can say like, look for it in October or anything like that. This is probably the only thing like that. So aside from that, I guess you can check out my podcast too, Writers Blockbusters, which is a screenwriting podcast. And today we just dropped an awesome episode that compares the screenplays of Speed 1 to Speed 2. It's pretty cool. You'll like it.
Awesome. Well, actually, you actually read my mind. I was actually going to jump right into it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about Nomad. I look forward to reading it. And aside from the podcast, obviously that you just plugged, can tell folks where else they can find you?
Sure thing. But definitely check out Writers Blockbusters. That's the podcast. But you can find me at Jamie_Nash on Twitter. I do a lot of, that's probably my primary place to find me is Twitter. I also have a website, and that has everything. It kind of aggregates all the stuff, jamienash.net. And of course, go to Amazon, buy the book. It's on sale now. And reviews really help. So if you're somebody that has already bought the book and you're checking this out, or if you're about to, for an indie author like me, reviews are everything, because people kind of go on Amazon, they check out the book, they say, how many reviews does this thing have? And if it only has 1 or 2, they're like, oh, okay, his mother wrote the review. But if you can get it in the 20s, the hundreds and stuff, people are like, okay, this is legit. Somebody, 100 people took the time to write reviews. This must be a legit book. So please, if you do read it, give me feedback. I'd love to hear from you, and please write a review.
All right, there you go, guys. Write a review. So Jamie, again, thank you so much. And,
thank you, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. And I guess till next time, till whatever comes next. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
What it is.
Well, I want to hear. I'm going to be watching what you're up to at Comic-Con, so I'll be watching what you're doing next. So I'll check it out.
All right. Thanks again, man. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.